Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. But you're always in the game and you're always striving. So what if you reach? What if you stretch and you don't get the result that you want? Then you take what you learned and you stretch again. I promise you, when you get to the end of your life, you won't sit there with your grandkids all around you starting their careers and say, let me tell you about the time I didn't try to do better in my career. Hey, it's Dr. Phil, and we are back talking about Living by Design 9. I've been getting a lot of comments from you guys, and I want to take a few minutes before we pick up with our next item in the playbook to say I really appreciate your feedback. A lot of you have said, I can't believe you're giving us all of this information. We keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, like, are we going to get a bill for this at the end or something? I can't believe I'm getting this for free in a podcast, but you are. There's no other shoe to drop. I do want something from you, though. What I want from you is to stop for a minute and ask yourself what you're doing with what we've talked about so far. Because I don't want to be talking to myself here. These are things that I want you to do in earnest. And it means something different for everybody. All of you hear something different from what I say. All of you apply it differently in your life. Some of you are plumbers. Some of you are teachers. Some of you are bureaucrats. Some of you are politicians or bankers or executives, whatever. I know because you write to me. It doesn't matter what it is that you're doing in your life. It's important that whatever it is you're doing, that you have made the decision to star in your own life. Now, I've talked about that so far. Some of you have said, starring in your own life is not as easily done as it is said. I understand that. If this was easy, everybody would do it. But you've got to make a decision and understand what I mean when I say winners do things losers don't want to do. So before I begin, I want to talk to you about this concept that I call shake it up to break it up. Now, I've given you parts of a playbook that I want you to follow. I've said that you must have a defined image and never, ever go out of character. Now, that's a big deal. We talked about it in great detail. I said you must create a perception of uniqueness if you want people to keep you around. I said you must play big and not long. There's a big difference between the two. I've said that you have to learn to claim and accept praise and acknowledge it in a gracious way, but do accept it. It's not egotistical to accept it. I said you must become essential. You've got to create a way that whether it's in your relationship, your business, your family, you've got to find a way to become essential. You have to know what your real currency is so you don't wind up spending your life working for what you don't want. I said you must always, always have a plan. Don't ever be an unguided missile. Always have a plan. I've said that you must keep things close to the vest. Don't tell everybody your plan, because that plan is what's going to get you where you need to go and get what you want. I've said you must always be in investigative mode. You must always be figuring out what you need to know that gives you an edge. Number 10 is you must stretch and behave your way to success, even if it feels phony, even if it feels like you're faking it until you make it. Number 11, you must always keep your options open. That's what makes a risk reasonable instead of reckless. Or let's go on to number 12. You must master the system and figure a way to make it work for you. Figure out the system you're in. What really makes it work? That's what you need to know. And before I get to the next item, when I say you've got to change, think about momentum. If you want to really change the way you're living your life, Something dramatic has to happen, because if you think just all of a sudden you're going to listen to me for a few weeks and just automatically your life's going to change, it will not. You are going to consciously have to change how you live day to day, week to week, month to month. Now, think about a bowling alley. Let's say we're throwing a ball down a bowling alley, and we want that ball to make a right turn, 90-degree turn. What's it going to have to hit for that to happen? We're going to throw a bowling shoe down there about halfway. It's just going to roll right over that bowling shoe. So we're going to put a 2x4 down there. What's going to happen? Well, it's going to hit that 2x4. It's going to bump up and just keep on rolling right over it. If it's going to make a right turn, I mean a 90-degree change of direction, something dramatic is going to have to happen. It's going to need to hit a big bridge abutment. It's going to have to hit a big brown block of concrete to stop its momentum and redirect it in another way. What is that in your life? How do you make your life fresh and new? You do it by changing things. People avoid change, but you've got to run to change. You've got to embrace change. You've got to create change. And I really mean it just that simply. Go home and rearrange all the furniture in your living room. Go home and take the bed off one wall, put it on another wall. If you always go home and change and then go to the gym in the mornings instead of the afternoons. Change something that signals a new day. Change something in your life. You must deal only with the truth. You must deal only with the truth. Denial, trivializing things, minimizing things, that's for suckers. You have to deal with the truth. I don't care what it is that you're dealing with, whether it's parenting your kids, dealing with a crisis in your marriage, dealing with a crisis in your health, you have to deal with the truth. Winners deal with the truth. And you know when they deal with it at the first opportunity they have. They deal with the truth as soon as it presents itself. That seems self-evident, right? That if you want to be a winner, one of your items in the playbook is you deal with the truth. You don't lie to yourself. But that's not as intuitively obvious as it may seem, because we tend, through something called perceptual defense, to screen out things we don't want to see, we don't want to hear, and give our brain access to only those things that don't upset us. You have to consciously overcome that. I guess it boils down to this. When you think about it, don't you know the truth when you hear it? Let's say you are really worrying about something. You're really worrying about a test result from a doctor. You're really worrying about your kids out on an icy road. You're really worrying about it. And your friends are there and they're coming by and patting you on the back of the head and saying, oh, it's going to be fine. Oh, it's going to be okay. Now, everything's going to be fine. Does that really make you feel better? Because it doesn't me. It's never made me feel better. What makes me feel better is somebody that comes by and says, let's think this through. Let's assume that it is not good news. What's our next step? If it comes back positive, what does that mean? What do you do? Monsters live in the dark. Let's turn the lights on and see what we have to deal with here. What are the chances? What are you actually facing here? What are you dealing with? That's the person I want to talk to. Some vapid imbecile that comes by and pats me on the back of the hand and tells me it's going to be okay, unless they're a soothsayer, that doesn't give me any comfort whatsoever. It's going to be okay. Really? How do you know that? What is it that you know that I don't know? Look, they're just trying to be supportive, right? I hate to be harsh with them, but frankly, shut up. You don't know anything about it, so why are you talking to me about it? I want to talk to somebody that has talked to the highway patrol or has some way to get some information or understands what the diagnosis would mean or has some relevant information grounded in reality and based on fact, instead of they want to make themselves feel better because they came over and patted me on the hand and told me it was going to be okay. Deal with the truth. As I have studied case after case after case of champions, people that are winners, whether it's in business, research, athletics, or whatever, I never found people that stayed in bad relationships. Interestingly enough, they didn't have unusually high divorce rate, but they didn't stay in bad relationships. You know what they did? They said, "This sucks. I don't like this. It's painful. It drains me of my energy. So I'm either going to fix it or move on." But they would say, "Okay, we're not going to do this anymore." And I always tell people that if you don't believe in divorce, okay, then look at your partner and say, "We're not getting a divorce and we're not living like this anymore either." Neither of those two are options. So what's the third option? We're going to change. We're going to fix this. But the people that I've studied as champions, by and large, do not stay in relationships that are toxic, sick, draining, pulling them down. And they admit it the minute they see it. Maybe it's them, maybe it's their partner, maybe it's just the way they come together, but they admit it. Because the only thing worse than being in a bad relationship for 10 years is being in a bad relationship for 10 years and 1 day. The sooner you know it, the faster you can deal with it. So deal with the truth. What makes you tick? Why do you do what you do? Why do you work? Is it for money? Is it for recognition? Why do you coach your kids? Why do you go to parties? Why do you do anything that you do? If you don't know why you do what you do, you need to find out. Why do you not do what you don't do? You need to find out. I was at a social event this weekend. Let me tell you something about myself. You're probably going to think I'm lying to you here, but I'm not. I'm very shy. Seriously, I'm very shy. I understand I'm on television every day. I understand I talk to like 35, 40 million people a week. And I bet you think I don't look nervous up there at all. And you know what? I'm not. I'm not the least bit nervous. Why? Because I'm task-oriented. You give me something to do in a crowd, it doesn't make any difference to me if the crowd is 10 million or 100 million. Makes no difference to me whatsoever as long as I have something to do. You put me at a cocktail party with 50 people, 100 people, this last weekend, 400, 500 people. It's my personal hell. I would rather get a root canal from a bad dentist than go to a cocktail party and make small talk. It's just not my thing. I don't like it. So I don't do it very often. I only do it if it's an event for a really good friend that I want to support. And I do it because I want to support them more than I want to avoid the discomfort of the event, which was the case this weekend. So I know why I don't do what I don't do. I don't do cocktail parties. I know why. I'm uncomfortable. I'm shy. I don't think I have anything particularly interesting to say. And I'm betting you don't have very much of interest to say. I don't find small talk interesting from other people. I know they don't find it interesting from me. So I just don't go. I would rather stay home in my tennis shorts and socks with Robin and do something around the house. You hardly ever see me on red carpets and things like that because it's not me. I know why, though. You need to know why you do what you do and don't do what you don't do. What do you spend your time on? Everything has a payoff. It's easier to see your payoff when you're figuring out why you do what you do than it is to figure out why you don't do what you don't do, but it's still possible. All you have to do is say, what is my payoff for avoiding a situation? What is my payoff for withdrawing from or sitting on the sidelines in a situation? Because anything you do repeatedly, anything you do in pattern has a payoff. Now, if you just do something once, it just happened. I mean, who knows whether you'll do it again or not. But like in my situation where I say I tend to not go to cocktail parties, it's easy for me to figure it out because I ask myself the hard question, okay, what are you avoiding? What are you afraid is going to happen? What is it that makes you uncomfortable? Why do you not do what you don't do? You don't go to parties. Why do you not? Well, the question has to be, what am I avoiding? Either what am I afraid of, or what am I avoiding, or what is my payoff for not doing it? For me, the payoff is I avoid the discomfort of having to be in a social situation that is not rewarding for me. I avoid the social awkwardness of standing around with a bunch of people I don't know particularly well or wouldn't flag their cars down to hang out with them. I mean, I avoid that situation, and that's my payoff. There are negative consequences for me in doing that, and by not doing it, I avoid that. So my payoff is I avoid the negative reinforcement of being in that situation. So if there's something you don't do, like you don't practice a certain skill or your weekly reports at work, or you don't go to therapy with your partner or whatever, what's your payoff for not going? What are you avoiding? Okay. We've come to the end of a long journey with number 16. I won't say that I've saved the best for last, but I will say that I have saved the item for last that if you mismanage it, can have the most devastating effect on your life. You must pick your battles and never let your opponent have control. You must pick your battles and never let your opponent have control. Now, let me talk about what I mean by pick your battles. Don't ever get in a fight that you don't need to fight. There are a lot of people that just can't pass up a good fight. Argument, they just don't realize or recognize they don't have to react just because they can. There might be something going on at school with the teachers or the PTA. There are 500 students in the school, which means there are probably 750 parents. You don't have to be the one that fights that battle. Don't ever fight a battle that you don't have to fight. Now, you can think, okay, Dr. Phil, what you're saying is be a passive bystander. What if everybody takes this attitude? Well, if you look around and nobody is stepping up, then that's a battle you need to fight. But you don't need to be the one that charges every machine gun nest first every time. You don't need to be the one that puts yourself at risk every single time. Don't fight a battle you don't need to fight. Fight your fair share, contribute, support, but you don't need to be the first one through the door every single time there's going to be a conflict. Don't ever fight a battle that you don't know you can win. Now, again, you're probably saying, oh, wait a minute. What are you saying here? I'm saying if you can't win the battle, don't fight it. Why fight a battle that you cannot win? Again, I'm not telling you how the world should work. I'm telling you how the world does work. Why fight a battle you can't win? If you know that you cannot win this debate, this argument with your boss, then why do it? Go at it another way. Find another approach. Co-opt him or her into your way of thinking. But don't choose to engage in a battle that you cannot win. Let's talk about those battles that you do fight. If there's going to be a confrontation, there's going to be a showdown, there's going to be an argument, there's going to be something that is going to come to a resolution with a winner and a loser. You set the terms. You choose the battlefield. You pick the turf. Now, let me tell you how that works in the real world. That means if you've got a conflict with a spouse, a kid, a coworker, somebody at the school, whatever, they don't get to choose when that showdown is going to be. You choose when the showdown is going to be. They may come out to the carpool line and say, yeah, lady, we need to talk. Yeah, okay. You've got 5 minutes to get to work. You're feeling that pressure. You're sitting in your car. She's all dressed to the nines. You're there in some sweats with your hair sticking up. You don't feel ready. You haven't thought about this. You haven't gathered your thoughts, put down your bullet points. You're not ready. Then that's not when you engage. She's setting the terms and the turf. You don't agree with that. You have to say, yeah, that's fine. I'll get in touch when we can work out a schedule. You don't let them dictate the terms, and I'll guarantee you 90% of the time, people let their opponent dictate the terms. Don't do that. Say, okay, that's fine. Not here, not now. Well, when and where then? I'll let you know. Don't give them control. Well, you call me by noon. Yeah, I'll call you when I call you. I'll be in touch. You set the terms, you set the place, you set the time. You may not want to communicate all of that. If you have something that's really important to you and you want to get a concession from someone, then you may want to get really prepared and surprise them. You may want to get all your ducks in a row, all your facts together, all your information organized, get everything ready, put it all down on a piece of paper, a notepad. You might want to go over it in front of the mirror 5 times. You might want to record yourself on your voice memo on your phone, listen to it back. You might want to go through 10 times and then just walk into their office. Knock, 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 knock. I need to talk to you about something really important. Have you got a minute? You've set the time. You've set the terms. You've set the turf. You're ready. They're not. Know what constitutes a win and don't stop until you have it. Now, again, let me go back over this in quick summary. Pick your battles. Don't fight one that you can avoid. Don't fight a battle you can't win. Make sure you set the terms, you set the time, you set the turf. Out-prepare the other side. Be absolutely certain you know what it is that constitutes a win for you. And when I say avoid it, try to work something out. Try to compromise. Do anything you can. I'm just talking about when you get drawn into a battle, whether you want it or not. Like I said, I would never go into a nice restaurant, be standing in the lobby, and get in a fist fight. But if I walk into a nice restaurant and I'm standing in the lobby and somebody takes a swing at me, guess what? I'm in a fist fight. Didn't want it, didn't choose it, do anything to avoid it. But if somebody starts windmilling at me, I'm in a fist fight. I am going to protect myself and my family, and I am not going to stop until I know he is 100% subdued. Not sorta, but 100% subdued. I didn't want it, didn't choose it, but once I'm in it, I know what a win is, and that is to eliminate the threat to my family. Neutralize the threat. So do everything you can to avoid these, but make no mistake, when you get in them, play to win. Now, some of these things, I know, you're going to be thinking, boy, Doc, you sound pretty cutthroat. Like I said, I'm not telling you how it should be. I'm telling you how it is. Take what you can use, reject what you don't want, but that's not going to change the way the world works. We're going to talk about how to use this in your life in some different ways in some upcoming podcasts. I hope this has helped. I'm Dr. Phil.